The next presentation is by Mr. Abhishek Srivatsava on emerging possibilities of carbon markets and green finance for the plantation sector. Mr. Abhishek Srivatsav is a Senior Manager, NBS, Project Origination, Implementation and Management at Amrut Nature Solutions Private Limited, a joint venture of EKI and Shell. He is responsible for developing, implementing, and overseeing strategies and projects that harness the power of nature to address environmental challenges and promote sustainable practices. Abhishek has been associated with this carbon market for the last 4 years with EKI Energy Services. His core areas of expertise include carbon market intelligence and environmental expertise, strategic development for NBS projects like afforestation, reforestation, reducing carbon emissions from deforestation and degradation, sustainable agriculture and land management. He is also an expert in globally accepted carbon mechanisms such as CDM, VCS, CBC, and gold standard carbon financing, project budgeting to secure financial resources. Let me welcome Mr. Abhishek Srivatsava to present his paper.
Hello all, good afternoon, and thank you so much Upasi for inviting me here, and congratulations on your 130th annual conference here. So my name is Abhishek Srivastava and I'm associated with Amrut Nature Solutions Private Limited, and I'm working there as a senior manager into nature-based solution projects as into the origination, implementation and management. So today's topic is what are the emerging possibilities of carbon market and green financing based on nature-based solutions, as all of us are somehow related with the interventions which is based on nature-based solutions. So I would like to start with it. So a brief introduction about Amrut Nature Solutions Private Limited. It's a joint venture between EKI Energy Services Limited and Shell Overseas. I would like to give a brief information about EKI. So EKI Energy Services Limited is one of the world's largest carbon credit developer and supplier. It is the only listed company into carbon management domain. And till now, we have nearby 3,500 clients, and we have traded more than 200 million carbon offsets. We are dealing with all different kind of projects, starting with the technologies like renewable energy projects, solar, wind and hydro, nature-based solution projects, and waste management projects. The main aim to engage the whole criteria is into the carbon sequestration projects within India and into the neighboring nations to understand that how we can do the best thing out of it. And with a focus onto the quality standards, specifically onto the different kind of projects like agriculture, forestry, and the other land usage. A brief about team and expertise, that we are having a team of leading experts from the climate change industry, which is having 100+ man years experience. And we are dealing with the large scale projects into the forestry, into the agriculture. Agriculture, you can take up different projects like sustainable agriculture, land management, also methane reduction from rice cultivation, and along with the agroforestry model. We are having the experience into the different MRV sections and having a different methodologies knowledge with us, and also capable of designing, executing and managing projects of more than 1 lakh hectares as of now. It is not a single project, it's a combination of different projects. And we have experience of more than different registries into the carbon market, including the CDM, VCS, and gold standard. This is our scope of work. Start with project origination and designing. So whatever the interventions the people are doing, the only need is to aligning them with the methodologies, to understand the interventions from the carbon perspective, that the things which you are doing, the sustainable practices you are doing, you are directly or indirectly supporting towards a sustainable environment. For example, if you are avoiding the chemical fertilizers and in case of you're using the replacing them with the organic fertilizers, somehow you are contributing towards the enrichment of soil organic carbon. So this is you are doing. The only thing you need to understand and you need to implement as per the carbon methodologies. There's nothing new science or a kind of a rocket science into that. Project origination and designing is a very important phase where we need to understand that how your interventions can align with these kind of methodologies. Listing, validation, and registration under the different mechanisms, where I would like to tell you that there are two mechanisms under voluntary carbon market, which is known as VCS and GS. VCS stands for Verified Carbon Standards, and GS stands for Gold Standard. So these are the two globally accepted mechanisms into the voluntary carbon market. Verification and issuance of carbon offsets is the next step by a third-party auditor called as DOE, Designated Operational Entity. And then how to do the MRV, which is known as measurement, reporting, and the verification of carbon credits, and facilitating the trade to generate the income after that. So you can say that we can act as an end-to-end carbon consultant for these kind of projects, starting from the scratch to the trading of carbon offset to generate the revenue. Now, it is very important to understand that what is carbon credit. So carbon credits are measurable, verifiable emission reductions or removals. So there are two different approaches through which we can support towards the sustainable environment and fight against the climate change. First one is to stop the emissions. How to stop the emissions? These are the first one. How to avoid the emissions? If you are taking up some activities through which you are stopping the emissions. For example, in early stages, we are generating the electricity by the coal, right? Now it is replacing by the hydro plants. So when you're generating the coal, electricity from the coal, at that moment you are doing the coal combustion, and there is a huge emissions happen at that time. But now it is reduced. So this is the reason why hydro projects comes under the category of and eligible for the carbon credits. Second one is the carbon sequestration, carbon removals from the atmosphere. It is very important to stop the emissions, the coming emissions, but it is also important to remove the current carbon which is already into the atmosphere, right? So the second types of carbon credits called as carbon sequestration, or you can say the carbon removals. In general layman language, the carbon removals you can easily take up by doing the plantations, by doing the afforestation, or by avoiding the cutting the trees which are actually sequestering the carbon from the atmosphere. So through this diagram, you can easily understand that how the carbon credits work out. There's an organization who is having some permitted sources who are going to buy the carbon credit to meet regulatory requirements. So when you say regulatory requirements, it comes under the compliance market. In some of the organizations or in some of the countries, there are some kind of alignment that you have to purchase that much amount of carbon credits if you really want to do that. So it is called as cap and trade system, which is called as compliance market. But some organizations are doing it on a voluntary basis. So in India, as you know, recently we saw the draft of carbon credit trading scheme. Here, it is a very good effort and very good initiative taken by the government that now we are also entering into these kind of initiatives. But now, as of now, the voluntary carbon market is running in India. So if any company wants to make themselves carbon neutral, they can purchase the carbon offsets. And this particular amount is going to take up these kind of projects through which we can generate the carbon credits. One carbon credit is equivalent to 1 ton of CO2. Either you are avoiding or either you are removing. So as you know that there are 7 greenhouse gases, so CO2 is taken here as a standard unit for all gases. So if there's a methane, so the equivalent weight of methane is 25 times of CO2. So standard unit is CO2. So in a normal language, if 1 carbon credit is equivalent to 1 ton of CO2 either removed or either avoided. This is the carbon credit ecosystem, which is very important to understand, and there are different entities having their roles and responsibilities. Project developers can be the government, can be the companies, can be the NGOs, can be the organizations like you, those who are directly working with the small and marginal farmers or having their own land. So project developers are the people who are actually doing these activities. Third-party auditors are doing the audit for understanding and to give their reports onto the validation and verification of these kind of carbon credits. Carbon offset programs, as I discussed earlier, that it is Verra and VCS both are same, verified carbon standards, gold standard and a CDM. Carbon credit buyers, the organization who are actually responsible for doing these kind of emissions regarding with their particular processes or manufacturing, they are the actual carbon credit buyers. When you're talking about investors, so as in our model, investor in the joint venture, the Amrut, Shell is the investor. Shell is investing into these projects for taking up the carbon credits. So investors can play a role of project developers as well. And when you're talking about carbon exchanges, so these are the marketplaces where you can do the selling and the buying of carbon credits. And carbon credit brokers and retailers where EKI is playing a very important role. They are doing these kind of activities of transaction of buying and selling of carbon credits for their own portfolio. So this is the whole carbon credits ecosystem. Sustainable Development Goals. So in 2015, United Nations adopted these Sustainable Development Goals, which is a universal call to end up the poverty, to protect the planet, and to ensure that by 2030, all the people enjoy peace and prosperity. So as you see, that there are 17 SDG goals, and each goal is having their own main objective. For example, if there is a no poverty objective, so under no poverty, there are some rules and regulations, there are some steps to follow. If you're doing these steps, if you're following these steps, it means you are tagging yourself as a no poverty. So in gold standard, there are 17 SDG goals. So whatever the projects we are going to register, we have to align them with these 17 SDG goals. The more SDG goals are aligning with your project, the more impact you are creating and the more price you are getting for your carbon credits. So it is a very simple equation that the more impact you are creating onto the environment, the better price you can get from your carbon credits, right? So these are the 17 SDG goals, and the best outcome is that if you are doing it, so you are doing the overall development of the ecosystem. As you are seeing that there are different categories like zero hunger, good health, also life on land, climate action. So how your project is aligning with these goals, that needs to be understood. So what are nature-based solutions? I'm just keeping it very simple, that the nature-based solutions are actions to protect, sustainably manage, and restore. This is the simplest definition of nature-based solutions. So any action that you are doing to protect the current ecosystem can come under the nature-based solutions. Any action through which you are sustainably managing the current ecosystem or you are restoring the current ecosystem, it is called as nature-based solution projects. So NBS project types, there are several more types, but I just keep it as per the audience that what are the project here. So afforestation, reforestation, and revegetation. Afforestation, if you are creating a new forest where there were no forests before, it is called as afforestation. Reforestation, where there were forests earlier, but due to some human interventions, they cut down the forest. And now again, we are reforesting them. So as per the name, reforestation. So afforestation, reforestation, and revegetation called as ARR project. Reducing emissions from degradation and deforestation, which is called as REDD+ projects. So the native forest which we are having, they are having a lot of issues and a lot of drivers, those who are actually responsible for degrading and deforesting them. Especially when you're talking about zoom cultivation. So the communities, those who are associated with these forests, they are actually clearing the land to do the agriculture. So if we are avoiding these kind of activities by providing them some other job opportunities or other livelihoods, that can come under the reducing emissions from deforestation and degradation. Third one is the agricultural land management, which is called as sustainable agricultural land management, SALM. SALM can be done when you are actually moving from conventional farming methods to sustainable farming methods, or you can say improved farming methods. In general agricultural practices, these interventions, these improved interventions are that you are shifting yourself from chemical fertilizers to organic fertilizers. You are not doing any kind of crop residue burning, which is actually doing the carbon emissions. You are not going to do the extensive tillage, which is disturbing the soil layers, which is also a main reason of carbon emissions. So these are some lists, these activities, if you are shifting yourself from these activities to improved activities, that can also give you the carbon credits. One more project comes under into this, which is called as methane reduction from rice cultivation. So as you know that when someone is doing the rice cultivation, at that moment they are going to flood the fields for a long time. So due to this flooding, there's a lot of methane emissions comes out from this particular project, which is actually very, very harmful for the ecosystem and for the environment. So if we are replacing these conventional methods from SRI or from alternating wetting and drying particular processes, that would again generate the carbon credits and avoid the methane emissions. Improved forest management, any kind of activities which is for the productive forest and you are going to sustain them for the long time, it is comes under the improved forest management. And wetland restoration and conservation, which is very important right nowadays and which is very into the news also, which is called as blue carbon. Mangroves conservation and restorations comes under the wetland restoration and conservation. So agriculture, forestry and other land usage, our focus is more onto the AFLU category under the labeling of climate, community and biodiversity. So I will let you know that what is CCB is all about. So how NBS is contributing towards the SDG goals. By this picture you can easily connect that NBS activity, climate benefits, it is of two types as we discussed, that emission reductions or carbon sequestration into biomass and soil, and how it is going to be like that. For example, if they are generating the livelihood, then they are somewhere doing contributions towards the no poverty, also into the decent work, into the economic growth also. So this is how we are actually connecting the projects with the 17 SDG goals. So, and again you see that if you are improving the biodiversity, then again you are contributing towards the 15th goal of SDG, which is the life on land. So this is the way how you can aligning your interventions with the sustainable development goals which are here. Now moving towards why NBS are gaining prominence. Let me tell you very clearly that by doing the monoculture plantations, if you are thinking that you are saving the environment, it is not right. Monoculture plantations is actually destroying the biodiversity. So whenever you are going to do, having a mindset that you need to do an overall development of the ecosystem, then only you can gain some kind of prominence and some kind of good contributions towards the environment. So, combating climate change and minimizing its impact. So here I am more focusing onto the climate, that we are doing the projects like afforestation, reforestation and wetlands restoration, and where the carbon sequestration has been taken place, which supports in sequestering the already existing carbon from the atmosphere. Secondly, economic benefits to community. Community is very important. Community is the actual people, those who are running the projects. For example, in the tea association and the tea gardens, the people, those who are having their lands, they are the actual people. Those who are sustaining this industry for a long, they are the actual person who are doing the things onto the ground, right? So it is very important to understand that what are their requirements, what are the community is actually looking forward for. Until and unless you are not supporting their livelihood, until and unless you are not generating better opportunities for them, it is not an overall development of the ecosystem. So communities are very important. So through this CCB model, we can provide the economic benefits to the local communities also. Whenever these carbon credits are going to be sell out into the market and when they generate the revenue, there is a mechanism called benefit sharing with the communities. By default, the carbon credits belongs to the land ownership. So through this particular section, we can provide the benefit to the communities also, which can uplift their livelihoods. Third one is the biodiversity benefits, which is very important. Biodiversity conservation and biodiversity improvement is very important nowadays. And through the multicultural plantations, through the understanding of all interventions, we can actually improve and conserve the biodiversity into both the areas, into the flora also, into the fauna also. So it is very important to understand this climate, community, and biodiversity, which is called as CCB standard. So as per our quality policy, we are developing the projects only in CCB standards, which is actually giving us the clarity that we are developing the high quality carbon credits, not the phantom credits. This is the rising demand of nature-based credits within last 5 years and 6 years. As I said, that now the whole market is shifting from renewable energy projects to nature-based solution projects. So this is how the whole thing's going to be changed. And this is the actual thing which we need to do if we really want to save our particular planet. So nature-based solution projects, as we saw into the last slides, are the best options for doing these kind of things. And in upcoming time, the basic understanding and the basic focus is onto the carbon removals, not onto the carbon avoidance. And if you really want to generate the carbon removal credit, NBS is the only option, which we have. So this is the standardized method that how we are understanding the project, how the project has been started. So first is identify environmental and societal change challenges, which is also called to understand the baseline. Baseline is nothing, what is the current situation of a particular cropland or a particular land. For example, if a farmer is using right now chemical fertilizers, it means the current baseline is 100% chemical fertilizers, right? Now, with our interventions, if we are reducing it up to 50%, and the 50% which we add up is the organic fertilizers, it means we reduced the chemical fertilizer usage up to 50%. And this delta which we created is the carbon credit, right? So it is very important to understand that what is the current baseline by doing the feasibility study. Secondly, as per the current baseline, what are the interventions required to develop the particular nature-based solution projects? Nowadays, agroforestry is into the news, right? Everyone is looking forward for the agroforestry model where they can generate the revenue from the crops also, and they're putting up the plantations on their barns, which can generate some more income for them. So like this, you need to understand that if it is possible, then we can also go with these kind of models over here. Then third step is to identify and undertake the activities that improves natural processes. So whatever the interventions we decide, we need to replicate them onto the ground as usual, with following the rules and regulations, with following the SOPs for a particular intervention. And according to that, we will develop these projects onto the ground and implement these projects onto the ground to do the proper MRV. And then once the whole project has been established, then as per the carbon market, we'll go with all the different steps like listing, validation, verification, and then we will move to the trade-offs. So as you're seeing, this is whole the design phase of NBS. The implementation phase is the last two, step 3 and step 4. Identify and engage the stakeholders and beneficiaries is very important. We are following up one process called as FPIC process, FPIC, Free Prior Informed Consent. So whatever the stakeholders, whomever the stakeholders are, we need to do a meeting with them to make them understand that what the project is all about and how this project is going to be run and what are the benefits comes out from this particular project. So this is the process where we are going to identify and engage stakeholders, and the collection of data will go all through the project baseline. Carbon financing. Carbon financing, as I said, it is an instrument through which financing can come up to support these kind of activities. So in our model, we are having an international investor, Shell, who is investing into the project from the scratch. For example, that if you are an implementation partner and you have all the capabilities to develop these projects and to run them for a long time, then you need to submit as the proposal. And if this proposal goes with all the quality policy, then the investors are going to invest into these projects from the scratch in exchange of carbon credits. So as with the diagram, that your operations, you're investing into the carbon projects, project investment is there. Example of carbon projects like renewable, we are talking about forestry right now. So afforestation project, sustainable agriculture project, whatever the projects you are looking forward for. And then the carbon credit comes for your own climate neutrality. So this is the model of particular, you can say, the carbon financing. So in Amrut, we providing actually two different models. First one is the investor. So in our case, Shell is the investor. As a carbon consultant, Amrut Nature Solutions Private Limited is acting as a carbon consultant and acting as an intermediary between the implementation partner or project proponent or the investor. And the implementation partner and the project proponent can be the person, can be the organization, can be the NGO, can be the farmer aggregator association, can be a tea association, anyone who can actually aggregating that number of farmers, right? So this is the whole model. Implementation partners having their own responsibilities to collect the data, carbon consultant having their own responsibilities to supporting the whole project from the end-to-end carbon perspective, and investor to invest into these projects in exchange of carbon credits. So this is the model where you are having the expertise but don't have the investments in place. So in this case, investor is there who can invest into these kind of projects in exchange of carbon credits. Second model is between only carbon consultant and the implementation partner. So here, if you are capable for doing these kind of projects, we are here to help you out in analyzing and designing the project. And in this case, carbon credits revenue will go to the implementation partners only, right? So this is the basic difference between the investor model and the carbon consultant model. So the criteria of high quality carbon credits, it is very important because after the criticism of Guardian, each and everything is become very stringent, and now the focus is only and only onto the high quality carbon credits. When you're talking about high quality carbon credits, these are the four major criteria which we need to follow. First one is the additionality. Additionality means that there should be something else. It should not be business as usual case. Because if you are doing it as a business as usual case, there is no need of money over there, right? So if a particular project cannot be survived without carbon financing or any kind of new interventions which you are additionally adding to that, it is called as additionality. So in project, we need to prove that why this project needs carbon financing. This is why additionality is very important into this. Permanence. Permanence, especially into the afforestation projects. For example, if the whole cycle is of 20 years, and after 20 years, all the trees are going to be chopped off, then again, it is not making any sense. So how you are ensuring the permanence, how the communities are well associated with these kind of projects, and how much you can ensure the longevity of these trees for a long time, that should come under the permanence. Leakage is a kind of activities which can be happened within the particular part. We need to calculate these activities also. And for example, if we are doing the agricultural practices, in these agricultural practices, we are also using some kind of fossil fuels. So you need to check these kind of activities also to reduce it from it. So these are called as leakage. Co-benefit, as we discussed, that co-benefit is very important. Co-benefit in terms of climate, co-benefit in terms of communities, co-benefit in terms of biodiversity. So these all co-benefits can assure the proper contribution and can support the overall development of the ecosystem. I'm going to end this by putting up some points. I write it down on the basis of the earlier sessions where few people asked some questions. So if your particular brand is from the carbon project, for example, if a tea brand, if a particular project is going to do a carbon project, it means somehow you can also add up into your brand, right? For example, if a tea if a tea industry is doing these kind of projects, it means you are somehow eligible for doing these kind of projects. That can also add up some more brand value to your particular brand. Second one, sustainability can be achieved by the NBS. Third one, climate change can be addressed by these kind of activities. If you're talking about the global agricultural practices, as we more focused about the value addition into the first sessions, I've listened that more focus is onto the value addition. So value addition can be achieved by doing these kind of practices, and somehow they are incentivize you from the carbon credits also. We are also seeing the monsoon deficit. So it is again one of the reason of the climate change. Formations of FPCs are very important because it is helpful into the supply chain and also into the aggregation of the farmers. And the small and marginal farmers can take the benefit out of it. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much. Thanks.